How we doing, everybody? Hello. Good evening. I figured no countdown here tonight. We're just going to jump right into it. And, hey, maybe we'll try that out here a little bit, moving forward, just no countdown at all. The reason I usually do the countdown for the streams is, it gives people a chance to see the notification on their phone. And, sometimes people put the phone down, they walk away from it, and, and they don't see it. But hold on one second. There we go. Okay, that's working. But yeah, that's usually why I do the countdown. It lets people kind of trickle on in and, get ready for the show. But I figured let's just jump into it tonight. Now, the Blue Jays. How about the Blue Jays? Finally, they have done something. I can't believe it. John, can you believe it?
I can't even believe it.
Thank you, John.
I can't even believe it either. The Blue Jays did something. You gotta love it. Jeff Hoffman heading to Toronto. The Blue Jays announced the signing of Jeff Hoffman to a 3-year, $33 million deal. John Morosi, he had tweeted out, I believe earlier in the day today, saying that there had been some good dialogue. Now, listen. I see some of you in the chat saying keep the countdown. All right, I think I could do that. I think I'll do that. Maybe just keep it to like a minute or so, maybe 2 minutes. But I'll keep the countdown. Why not? But we had been seeing some reports about Jeff Hoffman, right? John Morosi putting out that there had been some good dialogue. But, a part of me all offseason, coming into the offseason, my updated predictions, I really wanted to do Jeff Hoffman to the Blue Jays, right? The team that drafted him, in the first place. Let's actually go pull up some numbers here when it comes to Mr. Jeff Hoffman. And as of right now, he is projected to be the closer. We'll talk about that in just a second here. But he was drafted 9th overall by the Blue Jays back in 2014 and out of East Carolina. Hoffman has been one of the best relievers in baseball for the last couple of years. And, but there had been some talk about him possibly being a starting pitcher moving forward. He was a starter coming into the pros. And, he was getting knocked around a little bit. If we take a look at some of the numbers while he was with the Rockies, right? My goodness, look at some of these numbers here. He had 16 starts, 23 games back in 2017, ERA close to a 6. He was having a rough time. Go back to 2019, 15 starts, FIP and ERA near a 7. But when he got moved to the bullpen, now they did move him to the bullpen in Colorado, but he just was not having any success there. And, hey, pitchers don't have a lot of success in Colorado. But he went to Cincinnati. It looked like he kind of found his footing, right? The one thing he had issues with were the walks. The walk rate was pretty high, even going to Cincinnati in 2021. He had 5.5 walks at that point. Sure, the strikeouts were okay, but walking a lot of guys, giving up a lot of home runs. But he started to figure it out, making some adjustments over the last few years, went to Philly, and this guy was just, my goodness, this guy was going absolutely crazy for Philly. One of the best high leverage relievers in the game over the last couple of years. Now, obviously he's had a lot of success here, and we have seen, pitchers over the last, couple of years here, Seth Lugo being one of them. We saw Jordan Hicks make the switch when he signed with the Giants to become a starting pitcher. We have seen Garrett Crochet. That was another one, right? Garrett Crochet was just out of the bullpen for the most part. But we've seen these guys that are relievers convert into starters, and Jeff Hoffman obviously has the experience starting. You kind of had to figure it out along the way. So teams were thinking, okay, let's have Hoffman, be a starter. But in the end, it does look like he is going to be more of a reliever. It did say here, General Manager Ross Atkins said that Hoffman will get an opportunity to close games for us. That suggests they're planning to keep the right-hander in the late innings. Hoffman had reportedly drawn interest from teams as a starting pitcher. So, that was the one thing to me where I was thinking, man, maybe the Nationals could be a pretty good fit. Maybe the Angels could be a pretty good fit. I liked the idea of the Nationals because, they're a team that's maybe close to getting into a competitive window, and, having that flexibility, I felt like could have been a nice addition for the Nationals over the next few years. But again, getting back to the Blue Jays part of it, I always liked the idea of Hoffman going to the Blue Jays. Why? Because the Blue Jays bullpen absolutely stunk last year. Dead last in Fangraph wins above replacement. They needed to add something to this bullpen. This is a great move for the Blue Jays. Fantastic move. They've had a rough offseason. They have not had an easy going here. They've had a hard time trying to bring in these free agents. And that was another thing I thought recently, too. You know, if there was a guy that maybe you could have come back into the fold, you know, why not go with a guy that you drafted, you know, back, you know, again, it was a long time ago. It was back in 2014, but you know, this is a guy, you know, maybe that could end up enticing him a little bit, right? It gives it a little bit of a sentimental value, right? Hey, we're the team that drafted you. We'd love to have you come back. I'm really glad the Blue Jays did this. As a Red Sox fan, I hate it because this is going to be very tough on the teams in the AL East moving forward. Having to go up against Hoffman, you know, at the end of games, I mean, that's not going to be easy. I do not like this as a Red Sox fan moving forward. But, you know, when you look at the Blue Jays bullpen, you know, obviously Eric Swanson had his issues last year. You know, Chad Green, you know, he showed some pretty good things, right? He has been injury prone over the last couple of years. You know, Yimi Garcia, you know, I could see some upside with this bullpen. I could see the Blue Jays getting themselves back on track, but, you know, this is only one step here for Toronto. I mean, when you look at the lineup, yeah, there's some good things about the lineup here. But they're going to need to be just more consistent over the course of the year. I feel like that's been an issue for the Blue Jays over the last couple of years. And, you know, speaking of the offense, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays avoiding arbitration, going to be getting $28.5 million this coming year. That's a big payday, ladies and gentlemen. And I feel like that's something that not a lot of people realize when it comes to Vlad. You know, people think, oh, okay, he's in arbitration, so he's, you know, probably not making that much money. No, he's making, you know, almost $30 million. That's a very good salary. So if there is a trade possibly, which I don't think there is going to be at this point, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Again, even though you added Jeff Hoffman to the bullpen, I'm not trying to rain on the parade here, but in the end, it's going to come down to the extension. I just wonder if the Blue Jays can figure something out with the extension. There had been a report recently that the Blue Jays were, I guess, looking to get a bit closer to what Vlad was asking for. But you got to think from Vlad's point of view, you just saw what Juan Soto got on the open market, right? You know, I'm not saying he's going to get Juan Soto money, but when you just see the payday that guy got, you know, you should probably go out to free agency. But then again, if he wants to stay there, he has said before that he would like to stay in Toronto. So in the end, it comes down to the player, what they want, right? You know, we always say money talks, which yes, money does talk a big game. But for him, you know, I wonder if the money is close enough to what he's looking for, then, and if he wants to stay there, then yeah, I could totally see it. But I'm not going to say, you know, adding Jeff Hoffman necessarily secures that, you know, Vlad is going to be more tempted to stay long term. I mean, in the end, you know, he's on a 3-year deal. It's a good signing, but, you know, let's see. But then again, you could look at it from the point of view, will the Blue Jays, now that they've signed Hoffman, will they want to trade Vlad? The only way I could see them trading Vlad is obviously if they don't sign the extension. And 2, if they're able to get major league ready talent that can help them now, right? So I've seen a lot of people say maybe they wait till the deadline. Well, right now his value is much higher than it will be at the deadline. And then again, you know, you could obviously see a bit of a bidding war, especially if he's having a good year. Then yeah, teams would love to add him, whether or not it's at first base or at DH, right? So it's going to be interesting. When it comes to Vlad's trade value, it's, again, you got to remember, you know, sure, yes, one of the best bats in Major League Baseball, coming off an amazing season, but he is a first baseman that is going to hinder his value, right? Not saying it's, you know, his value's tanked or anything like that, but first base is a low value position at the end of the day. So you're not, if he was a shortstop, for instance, yeah, oh my goodness, his value would be through the roof. Or, you know, even an outfielder, right? But He's a first baseman. Then you also look at the salary that he's making. He's making a lot of money. Now, at the deadline, you're looking at, it's already, 60% paid? So, but still, over the course of, last couple of months of the season, that's still quite a bit of money to pay someone for a couple of months. So, in the end, it's still a lot of money, and that is also going to, especially if a team is looking to bring him on for a full season, that's a big salary to take on. So that is going to hinder his value as well. But obviously, he still has good value because he's a very good bat. All right. So I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting storyline to pay attention to. Yes, I really like the Hoffman signing. The Blue Jays needed to do this. They needed to bring in a reliever. They were connected with Carlos Estevez. I thought that would have been fine. But the fact that they got one of the best free agent relievers on the market, this is fantastic for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays fans, you needed something like this. You needed a feel-good story. You needed something, right, to feel good about, right? Hoffman, this is very good, man. Like I said, Estevez would have been good, but, or David Robertson or whatever, but, this is a good one. Good for the Blue Jays. I'm glad they got something done. And who knows, maybe someone like Anthony Santander, he sees something like this, like, oh, okay, all right, they got a legit guy to close out some games. Maybe that'll tempt him a little bit, right? Who knows what's going on with that? It's like, I really hate this time of the year right now because you still have so many guys out there. Now that Hoffman's off the board, you still, when you take a look at the reliever market, right? Pulling up the remaining relievers, you still have so many of them. It's moving so slow. Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, David Robertson. Even Kenley Jansen, Carlos Estevez, who I mentioned. You got some guys even down here. And also, Caleb Ferguson did just sign, right? Caleb Ferguson going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was a guy I said, kind of keep your eye on him because the advanced metrics outweigh the surface numbers with him. So he just came off the board recently. You even got Craig Kimbrell out there. I'm not saying, it's the old Craig Kimbrell, but still a name. So there's a lot of relievers still out there. And, but again, getting back to the fact that this offseason, it's just moving so slow right now. And, it's nice to see a move like this, but what's going on with Bregman? Hey, they got Roki Sasaki on here. I just realized that. How about that? Fangraphs put Roki Sasaki. That means, okay, so they have his projections. Oh, this is cool. Oh, they got Roki Sasaki projections on here. They are looking at a 3.5 F-WAR. Wow. Well, that's a pretty good projection right there for a guy that's only going to make 24 starts in their opinion. Decent. But, you still got a lot of guys, right? Jack Flaherty. You still got Nick Pivetta. Obviously, Pete Alonso, like Santander, who I mentioned. Verlander just came off the board, but you still got Scherzer, a veteran guy out there. Profar. Still a lot left to be done, ladies and gentlemen, right? And, obviously, we're in January now, but, time is starting to tick. We're a third of the way through the month. So, but in the end, wrapping this up, putting a bow on it, love the signing for the Blue Jays. They needed a move like this. Let's see what else ends up happening here. But I will say, keep your eyes on Vlad. Just because they signed him to, they agreed on an arbitration figure doesn't necessarily mean anything one way or the other, right? Remember, go back to the Red Sox when it came to Mookie Betts. They agreed on an arbitration figure, and they still moved him. Same thing happened with Juan Soto. So it doesn't necessarily mean either way whether or not he's going to stay or go. But I think there is an argument. If they can't reach an extension with Vlad, I definitely think there is an argument to move him, especially if you can get major league ready talent that can contribute to the team. If they're not able to get that kind of an offer, then I do think they will hang on to him. They will see how they do in the first half, and they'll go from there. Now, Blue Jays fans, I'd love to actually hear what you think about this. After the show, go to the comments, and I want you to tell me, depending on what no matter what ends up happening here with the Blue Jays for the rest of this offseason, if you cannot sign Vlad to an extension, I want to hear what you have to say. Would you still move him just like the Red Sox did with Mookie Betts? And yes, that obviously didn't really work out very much. But you saw the Padres did it with Juan Soto, and they ended up doing pretty well in there. Obviously getting Dylan Cease. They used Drew Thorpe in that deal. Michael King ended up being a great pickup for them. So that's kind of the way I look at it, right? The Padres, they did very well in the Juan Soto trade, right? That's what I envision the Blue Jays trying to do, right? Getting back guys that can contribute for at least the next couple of years. So let me know. Morgan Fay, any news about Santander? I got nothing. I got nothing about Santander. I would love to see something about that. Also, everyone, please show support for Blue Jays today. Since we're talking about the Blue Jays, their channel got hacked over the last couple of days. It's just so ridiculous. So they got hacked by like a crypto channel or whatever it may be, or it's terrible. Those are good guys. Those guys work very hard. And they're looking to get that channel back up and running. They're trying to contact YouTube and everything. And it can be a pain in the butt when trying to talk to YouTube. But send out your support for them if you can, whether that's social media or whatever. Those are good guys, and I feel very bad that happened with them. Blue Jays today would be live right now talking about this. They would have been. They probably had the champagne bottle ready. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But moving on here, let's go to Pete Alonso. We got a little Pete Alonso to talk about here. And listen, not really a huge update, but an update, right? Pete Alonso has reportedly made an offer to the Mets or Boris or however you want to do it. So he is putting on the table a short-term deal that would be a 3-year deal with an opt-out or opt-outs, whatever it may be. This is very similar to what happened with Cody Bellinger last year, Max Chapman. And, listen, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse, unfortunately, but I've kind of been saying this about Alonso. Right. That he was the weird one coming into the offseason because obviously he has the name. Obviously, he's been one of the better power hitters in the game. But when you take a look at the advanced metrics, they have been regressing a little bit. Still a very good power hitter, still hit over 30 home runs this past year. But when you're looking at it moving forward, you want to pay, yes, you are going to be paying for the past, obviously, but you're also going to be paying for the future. And that's where I've been sort of kind of hung up on Alonso a little bit. I was very, again, I had teams that, could have been a good fit, but I just wondered what the contract was going to look like. I remember I put out a 5-year deal. I think on my contract predictions video, I put a 5-year deal, and I had people saying that was going to be nowhere near enough for Pete Alonso. I went too much with that because, again, he's a first baseman with DH risk. The projections are, they're very questionable moving forward just because the slash line has regressed over the last couple of years. So, he's a bigger guy, first baseman. Who knows how he's going to be, in 4 or 5 years from now. Again, I really like Pete Alonso. I think he's an extremely fun player. Obviously, Mets fans love him. But when you're looking at it from the point of view of David Stearns, who looks for value and he weighs the advanced metrics very heavily, I wondered about Pete coming into this thing. So, but I think honestly, that is the right deal. Just do a 3-year deal, do an opt-out, and then, try to figure it out again next offseason, right? And, with the opt-out, maybe it could end up being one of those things where it could be pretty enticing. Like Corbin Burns has the opt-out in a couple of years. I do wonder if he's going to opt out of that deal because he's still going to be getting paid pretty handsomely if he ends up staying in that deal. Could that be a similar situation with Pete? But again, I would imagine he would want more years. I say just get that short-term deal done and try to hammer it out next offseason. See if you can kind of, he bets on himself a little bit with this contract. Go out there, have a polar bear kind of a year, a monster of a year, and try again, right? Maybe next offseason you can come to terms on, say, like a 4-year deal. In a way, it's like it's a bit of security for him, but it's like a prove-it deal in that sense. So, Pete Alonso, again, I've been saying this for a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if he just goes back to the Mets. There are other teams that could really use a guy like him, like the Mariners, really could use a bat like him. He's been connected with a lot of teams as of late. The Red Sox popped up. The Blue Jays popped up at one point. The Angels have popped up. The Giants as well. I think it would be a great fit with the Giants. They could really use a power bat in that line, or at least another bat in that lineup. Adames and Alonso and Chapman I thought would be great. But really, in the end, the best fit is with the Mets. You brought in Juan Soto. They need some protection behind him. I just say run it back. Revisit the deal next offseason, right? Who knows? Maybe they could figure, just like Matt Chapman this year. Maybe they could figure out something along the way. Matt Chapman, he did that kind of a deal last offseason, and he got the extension before the season ended. Before the season ended. So I say do that and then come back to it later on. But overall with Pete, not really a whole lot of news, but a pretty good update. Moving on. Sticking in New York, let's talk about Marcus Stroman, shall we? And of course, I lost the article. Of course I did. Here we go. The Yankees. We did talk about Marcus Stroman the other night. This is not like a blockbuster kind of a news story or whatever it is, but Marcus Stroman, this is a guy where if you're looking at the Yankees rotation as of right now, they brought in Max Fried, so there's a little bit of wiggle room here. And, if you're looking at it right now, you got Garrett Cole, you got Max Fried, Rodon, Heel, who's coming off just a great Rookie of the Year season, Clark Schmidt. So Stroman at this point, it's a guy that's getting paid handsomely. And, sure, it's always nice to have some depth, but you have 5 legit guys for this rotation as of right now. You got some younger guys, someone like Will Warren, who could be like that 6th starter. You have guys that can step up behind them. Stroman, really when you think about it, he's not really needed at this point. The year that he had, it's kind of whatever. But, I feel like for the Yankees, he's not really going to bring a lot of value to the Yankees, but I think he could bring a lot of value to some other teams out there. Stroman, at the end of the day, sure, ERA was a 4.31. The FIP wasn't really all that much better at a 4.62, but a guy that's going to go out there for the most part, he's going to give you a start every 5th day. A guy that really, he's going to give you innings at the end of the day. I think there are teams out there where he could still provide some value. Now, another story, I'm going to connect this. Now, the Oakland A's, according to Jessica Kleinschmidt of the A's radio network, is saying that the A's are looking to add more options for the rotation. Saying here, David Forst, the general manager, told Jessica Kleinschmidt that he's still hopeful to make another addition or two, specifically mentioning the rotation as one possible area. Now, I have mentioned some guys, like some veteran guys. I don't know. I'd be surprised if Max Scherzer went to the A's, right? I don't know. It just feels a little weird. I feel like Scherzer would like to go somewhere. I think the A's could be fun this year. Who knows? Maybe that could be attractive to him. I'm not sure. It depends on what he wants at the end of the day. But I feel like he would probably rather go to a team where, they could have a legit shot at going after it, right? Like the Tigers. I feel like the Tigers are in a better position as of right now. He could be a good veteran presence for that young rotation and all the young guys they have there. I feel like Scherzer would be a nice fit to have a reunion with Detroit. But who knows? Maybe Oakland. But the one thing with Oakland is, remember, because they're going to be moving out, they have a bit of a deal going on with the Players Association where the Players Association, they want them, because they're doing all this, they're moving out, they're going to Sacramento, going to Vegas here in a little bit, they want them to spend money. I believe the figure that they're looking to get to was right around $105 million. So Stroman this coming year, he is going to be making, so his AAV is 18.5. Now, if we're looking at the Yankees or payroll. And right now, like I said, you're at $97 million. So, Stroman would put them over it, but like I said, they're looking to go north of 105. So if you add Stroman and let me see, what is the actual salary for Stroman this coming year? It's still okay. It's 18.5. He has the $18 million vesting option. You do have to assume, that is going to vest. And Stroman is a guy that's been able to throw his innings over the years. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting that. But 18.5, and for the A's, yeah, that would definitely put them over the 105 mark. So I think Stroman could be a pretty decent option. Sacramento, West Coast. I remember, not too long ago, we all thought Stroman, would be a great fit for the Giants, right? Obviously he's got his New York ties, but I could see him going out to the West Coast, enjoying it out there, and Sacramento, gives him a little bit of life. Sure, I do like some of these young guys that are on this team. I think it gives him, if he goes there, a little bit of an edge. You know what I mean? Not saying that's a good thing, bad thing. I guess it could go either way at the end of the day. But I would like the idea of Stroman in this rotation, right? Severino, Stroman, Jeffrey Springs could be your number 3. You got JP Sears at the back end giving you some innings. You got some younger guys here, and Estes and Spence. Or, if not Stroman, I would also love for the A's to add a veteran guy like Lance Lynn or Kyle Gibson. I think those kind of guys would make a lot of sense, right? Got a lot of young guys here. You do have a veteran in Severino, but you got a lot of young guys on the pitching staff. I feel like someone like Lynn or Gibson could make a lot of sense. They're not going to break the bank. Scherzer too. Obviously we've seen Charlie Morton get $15 million. Verlander got $15 million. Is Scherzer going to get the same thing? Scherzer just had a better year than Verlander, so I would imagine he's going to get probably right around that too. So I think one of those guys makes a lot of sense, or possibly Marcus Stroman. A guy that gets a lot of ground balls, a team out there, good infield defense, Cleveland, maybe they could look to add another starter there. But again, it is a lot of money. I don't know if Cleveland would really want to play ball with something like that. The Tigers, they got a good infield. Could they use another starter in that rotation? I think it could make some sense for them to add something. I would like for them to kind of get away from the chaos pitching staff a little bit this year. Try to get some guys that you can rely on. So I think, Stroman could be a pretty good fit with either of those teams. Maybe the A's. We'll see. But look out for Stroman here. And, I feel like he's going to get moved at some point. I mean, if they're willing to pay down the salary, there's no need to hang on to the guy. So I think he's going to get moved. Am I still saying Oakland? Fibs, I'm still saying Oakland. I'm telling you, this is difficult. It's ingrained in my brain. I can't stop saying Oakland. The Sacramento A's. It feels even weird just saying the A's because they don't even have a city in front of the name. It's just the Athletics. I think I heard who was it? AJ Przinsky on Foul Territory. I think he said that they're the West Coast A's. I thought that was pretty funny. So anyway, moving on here. I'm actually not going to go into this one too deeply. I'm going to be going live over on Fenway Faithful after this, but I do want to mention here. a little something here from Cardinals Live, right? And we do have maybe a little something here. Now, if you're not familiar with Cardinals Live, and everyone, while I'm pulling this up, if you can, just hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you are new. We got a ways to go for the like goal for tonight. 200 is the goal. We're a little far away from that. If you could help us get there, I would love you. But Cardinals Live, if you have not heard of this account, they have been doing pretty well when it comes to hitting on some news stories. When it came to the Nolan Arenado stuff, that he had an interest in going to the Red Sox. That was one of his preferred destinations. It was reported by Chris Cotillo and Sean McAdam after the fact. And Chris Cotillo, one of the more respected guys in the game when it comes to scoops, he did give credit to the Cardinals Live account. I will also say I did tell all of you the Nolan Arenado news, and not like it makes me any better than anyone. I'm just saying I did have that scoop 2 weeks before they brought it up. I'm just saying. But Cardinals Live, they are getting some things right. They are, hitting on some things here. They have hit on some stuff in the past as well. Of course, you're going to get the normal hate comments like, oh, these guys don't know anything. But it's like, I know it's hard to believe a lot of the accounts out there because we've been so, there's been a lot of accounts over the years where you tend to get false information. I personally don't think these guys are giving out anything false. I think they're putting some stuff out there that has a lot of truth to it. I don't think they're playing around with this stuff. But they have been touching on some stuff here. And first, let's kind of bring this up. And again, I'm going to go deeper into this on Fenway Faithful. I just want to give you a bit of an update on this. So obviously, Nolan Arenado's been on the trade block. This is not new, right? This is nothing, obviously the Cardinals are looking to trade him. They've been open about it. They're looking to cut payroll. Now, he put this here today. So, Ivan Herrera, ... Well, where there's smoke, ... Now, you might be asking me, well, what does this mean? Well, Robbie, what the heck are you talking about here? Well, he put this yesterday. Now, taking a look at this is really interesting. Casas and Boston's relationship seems off. I've heard multiple people close to the organization say several things that, while not necessarily negative, felt there was an underlying issue. I've also been told Heim and Casas had a good relationship, as he did with most young players within that organization while he was there. Also told there was some coddling and a longer than usual leash. Person I spoke to said Heim kind of encouraged the behavior and environment, and it's never been able to be corrected. This was someone's opinion. If true, it's interesting. If there's any accuracy to the above, I could see how these rumors would have legs. However, being some of it can't be verified, I'm unsure, and first base isn't an obvious need for St. Louis. Taking Yoshida's contract seems pointless while in their situation, unless it is a multi-team deal. So that was something that he brought up there. Thought that was pretty interesting. And then kind of going down a little further here, there was something else, I believe. He was touching on some Helsley stuff. Said the Blue Jays haven't been desperate enough for Helsley. Well, now that could actually tie back to the Jeff Hoffman story, that maybe they were focused on him. So, little something to think about right there. I feel like there was something else, and I can't remember. He was touching on a lot of the arbitration stuff. But anyway, kind of putting the Casa stuff out there. Obviously, Arenado's been on the block. He put the Herrera thing today. And, I was thinking, what's going on here? What's going on? And then he also put this. Chris Cotillo, he had tweeted out, Walker Buehler and Cutter Crawford are two other late scratches according to the new list of players on the site. He's talking about Fenway Fest. But then he also put Cutter Crawford. Interesting name here. Interesting. So I actually put out a video today on Fenway Faithful. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I came up with some Tristan Casas trade ideas. Now, if you were to take a look here at this deal, I don't know if I don't think you can fully see this on the screen. Well, that didn't help. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let me do a little zoomy zoom. Well, you can't see it. My goodness. I don't know what's going on. Well, okay. I'll just have to zoom out. So this right here, I'm sorry. I know you can't see it. Well, actually, maybe I already have it up. Oh, okay. Okay. Here's the deal. The only difference with the one that he posted, it had $20 million in cash. So, I kind of started putting it together a little bit, and I threw this out there. Nolan Arenado obviously has an underwater contract. Ryan Helsley, he's going to be making $8 million, a little more than $8 million this coming year. And if you put Ivan Herrera in the same deal with a little bit of cash, then you're looking at close to around $50 million of trade surplus value. And go back to the Cardinals in this deal. Obviously, the Red Sox, yes, they keep telling us, no, we're not moving Tristan Casas. This guy's clearly on the market, okay? This is what they posture. We've seen so many times over the years, GMs or whatever say, we're not trading this guy. He's not on the market. I don't know where this is coming from. And then literally the next day, they end up getting moved. I keep going blank. I know there's been examples of that. If anyone could give me an example of that happening, I'm so blank on it. But I know it's happened before, It was so funny because it was literally like the next day where GM said that, and then that guy got moved. It was so funny. But it's been no secret that Casas has been on the trade block, right? So if you put him with Cutter Crawford, which if you look at it from the Red Sox point of view, they've added Garrett Crochet this offseason. They've added Walker Buehler as well. Giolito's coming back. He's going to be ready for opening day. I mean, you got 6 guys in this rotation. Look at the Yankees right now. Look at what they got Stroman as their 6th guy. Giolito's not pitching in the bullpen. Now, the Red Sox have talked about a 6-man rotation, but they got some other guys like Richard Fitz who could work in the mix. They got a couple other young starters that maybe they could call upon. So, if they moved Cutter Crawford, I mean, you got to think, if you have your Giolito's not pitching in the bullpen. Giolito's going to be a starter. Walker Buehler's not obviously pitching in the bullpen. Bayo, no. So the guy that would be the odd man out would be Cutter Crawford. Now, Crawford could pitch in the bullpen. I'll talk more about this again on Fenway Faithful. But, that could make him expendable, just like the Yankees see Marcus Stroman being expendable. So it'll be interesting, right? Could you do a deal where it circles around Arenado, Tristan Casas? Now, straight up, no, you cannot. You cannot. They're too far apart. Even if you paid Arenado's, underwater value, they're still far apart because Casas has a lot of years of control. He's cheap. There's upside with him. So, yeah, he's going to have a good value. So, yeah, but if you threw in other guys, and if the Red Sox, if the Cardinals were willing to give up Ivan Herrera, a young catcher, they have a lot of catching in the organization, right? You got Pedro Pages, you got Ivan Herrera, you got Crooks down in the minor leagues. You got some other guys down there as well, Someone like Herrera could be expendable, especially if someone like Crooks is getting close to major league ready. You could roll, with Pages, maybe even just sign a guy on like a stopgap kind of a contract or whatever it may be. And then for the Cardinals, you're going through a bit of a reset anyway. So if you could use someone like Herrera where you have a surplus of that position, well, that could be your ticket to get out of the Nolan Arenado contract. I mean, do you have to put Ryan Helsley in this deal? No, you don't have to. Honestly, you could probably do this even without Cutter Crawford and, the cash. I mean, you could still get pretty close here if you did Arenado and Herrera for just Casas. So you're not too far apart when it comes to the values there. I do think, again, we need more verification. We need some other guys to maybe put this out there. But again, Cardinals Live has been very good when it comes to the accuracy on things, right? So we'll see what ends up happening here. But this is something to keep an eye on. This could be the way the Cardinals get out of the Arenado contract. Arenado wants to go to the Red Sox. That has been reported. Keep your eyes on this, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get interesting, right? I mean, like I said, teams, they just came back from holiday break this past week. You still got a lot of guys out there. And I think we're going to start seeing some movement. There's been too much smoke with Tristan Casas. In my personal opinion, he is going to be at Fenway Fest this coming weekend. In my personal opinion, I think I don't know, man. I just feel like at this point he's going to get moved. I don't know that. There's been so much. I don't know. And Arenado, at this point, if you're the Cardinals, I mean, do you really want to bring Arenado back into the fold? Because, I mean, if you have a shot to move him now and that money, you never know what could happen over the next couple of months. What if he's still not hitting all that great at Busch Stadium? That's going to hurt his value even more. I don't know, man. Like, I think now is the time where the Cardinals, they got to figure something out here with Arenado. And listen, for Casas, if you brought him into St. Louis, obviously the Heim Bloom connection there, I think it'd be great, right? And another thing, getting back to the catcher position, you could have Wilson Contreras go back to the catcher position. They did say that he is going to be the full-time first baseman DH for 20. Well, he will be playing first and DH full-time in 2025. But if you move Herrera, he could be a guy that you put back there as well. Obviously, he was a catcher his whole career. So you could go that route. I do think this has legs. I feel like this is something here. I see you in the chat, Fibs, just wasting talent. I would say it really depends on what your goals are, right? To me, I feel like this would be acceptable if you're the Cardinals, because right now your current timeline does not feel right with Arenado in it. Nothing against Arenado, but the Cardinals are trying to go through a bit of a reset. They have a surplus at a position, and if you have a guy with value, and if you don't want to pay cash or a lot of it, then this could be your way to get out of that deal. For the Cardinals right now, it makes no sense to keep Arenado if they want to cut payroll, right? They're going through a bit of a reset. Chaim Bloom is going to be the new president of baseball operations next offseason. I feel like he would like to start off with a bit of a clean slate, get some payroll off of there and kind of work with something fresh, and this is your way to do it, in my opinion. I could see Cardinals fans not liking it, but in the end, if the Cardinals have a situation with the payroll and they need to clear it, and without having to pay a ton of money, this is how you do it here, right? Again, this is how value works in the end, right? I wouldn't see this as a waste of talent. I would just see this as, it's just, again, you kind of look at it where you look at the flexibility of your own roster and you're looking at where you are as an organization. If you could kind of help clear out some things to help build something new, then sometimes you got to make moves like this. Now, if you had no other catchers in the system and Herrera was your guy moving forward, well then, yeah, that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, right? But you do have guys. You have Pages, who did show some good things this past year. You got Crooks down in the minor leagues, You could go out there in free agency. I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways to do this, and let's see what ends up happening. But keep your eyes on this, ladies and gentlemen. But everyone, I am going to get out of here. That is all I got here for tonight's show. Again, it's a Friday night. I usually don't go live on Friday nights, but there was stuff to talk about. But everyone, I'll be back probably on Sunday night. Saturday, Saturday, I tend not to do anything usually. But again, because there were things here, I wanted to touch on it. But I am going to go live on Fenway Faithful. I'm going to go deeper into this. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and we'll talk some Red Sox over there. But everyone, go have yourself a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you next time.